Lisa Wright stood at the window of her office aboard the Galactic Council station, watching the stars. In 12 hours, she would face the entire council and defend humanity's right to exist as a spacefaring species. Her reflection showed dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept well in days. A soft chime from her desk computer broke the silence. "Ambassador Wright, Commander Banks is here to see you," her AI assistant announced. "Send him in," she said, turning from the window. Peter Banks walked in, his Earth Defense Force uniform crisp and neat. Despite the tension in the air, he managed a small smile. "Ambassador, the latest reports from our border stations just came in. The Zaxiri are moving more ships into position." Lisa sighed and sat down at her desk. "How many?" "3 full battle fleets. They're not even trying to hide it anymore." Banks pulled up a holographic display showing red dots clustering around human space. "They're practically daring us to react." "They want us to strike first," Lisa said, rubbing her temples. "Give them an excuse to label us as the aggressive species they claim we are." The commander nodded. "The Valiant reports their ships are running active scanners. They're particularly interested in our new quantum shield generators." "Of course they are." Lisa stood up and paced the room. "For 300 years, they've had unchallenged military superiority in this sector. Now humans show up with technology that can resist their weapons, and suddenly we're a threat to galactic peace." Outside her window, a massive Andromedan ship glided past, its crystalline structure catching the light of the nearby star. The sight reminded her of how young humanity was in the galactic community. Most species here had been spacefaring for thousands of years before humans had even invented the wheel. "The council session starts at 900 station time," Lisa said. "I need you there, Peter. When they start throwing accusations about our military buildup, I want Earth's top commander ready to answer questions." Banks straightened his uniform. "I'll be there. But Lisa," he hesitated, "are you sure about revealing the full capabilities of our quantum tech? Once they know what we can do, they'll be even more afraid of us," she finished. "I know. But if we don't show our strength now, they'll never respect our rights as a sovereign species." The next morning, the great chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations filled the tiered seats. Some appeared in holographic form from distant worlds, while others attended in person. The air smelled of various atmospheric mixtures, designed to accommodate dozens of different species. Lisa stood at the speaker's podium, feeling the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon her. The massive form of High Counselor Zextal, a Zaxiri, loomed over her from the raised central platform. His scaled skin shifted colors with his emotions, currently displaying angry reds and oranges. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Lisa Wright of Earth," Zextal announced, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. "You may present your response to the allegations." Lisa took a deep breath. "Honorable members of the Council, I stand before you today not to make excuses, but to speak truth. Yes, humanity has developed new defensive technologies. Yes, we have strengthened our borders. We have done this not out of aggression, but out of necessity." She gestured to the holographic display behind her, showing the expansion of Zaxiri military presence around Earth's territory over the past 5 years. While the Zaxiri Empire accuses us of being warmongers, their actions tell a different story. They have steadily increased their military presence around human space since our first contact. Angry murmurs filled the chamber. A Zaxiri representative stood up, his scales flashing bright red. "The human speaks lies. We increase our presence only to contain their aggressive expansion." Commander Banks stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "With respect, I have data proving that Earth has not expanded its territory in the past 3 years. Every human settlement and military installation is within our originally agreed-upon borders. The same cannot be said for the Zaxuri Empire. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers as Banks displayed evidence of Zaxuri ships violating human space multiple times over the past year. Lissa watched several council members lean forward, their attention caught by the detailed sensor logs. Furthermore, Lisa continued, I am now authorized to reveal the full nature of our quantum shield technology. She nodded to Banks, who activated another holographic display. This technology is purely defensive. It creates a quantum field that harmlessly disperses energy weapons. We developed it after 3 human colonies were attacked by pirates using Zaxuri weapons. High Counselor Zextal Scales shifted to a deep purple. You dare accuse the Empire of sponsoring pirates? I merely state facts, High Counselor. The weapon signatures are in the Council records. Lisa's voice remained steady. Humanity wants peace. We have always wanted peace, but we will not achieve peace by remaining defenseless. A new voice spoke up. Ambassador Kryn of the Andromdan Confederation. Their crystalline forms sparkled as they rose. The human speaks truth about the weapon signatures. Our own analyses confirmed their findings. The chamber fell silent. The Andromedans were known for their strict neutrality and scientific accuracy. Their support carried enormous weight. Zextal Scales rippled with barely contained rage. Then let the record show that humanity's development of this quantum technology represents a clear shift in the balance of power. The Zaxuri Empire moves to declare a state of emergency. On what grounds? Lissa demanded. On the grounds that humanity now possesses technology that could theoretically be weaponized against the established powers of this council, Zextal announced. We move to require immediate sharing of this technology with all council races. Lisa's heart raced, but her voice remained firm. Earth respectfully declines. We will not be coerced into giving up our right to self-defense. If the Council wishes to declare an emergency over a purely defensive technology, then perhaps it's time to examine why certain members feel so threatened by the ability of others to defend themselves. The chamber erupted into chaos. Some representatives shouted support for Earth. Others demanded sanctions. Through it all, Lisa stood her ground, with Commander Banks at her side. They watched as the Council divided itself, centuries-old alliances straining under the weight of this new political reality. In the end, the vote was close, 108 to 92, with 12 abstentions. The Council officially declared a state of emergency regarding human technological development. As Lisa and Banks left the chamber, they knew the real battle was just beginning. The declaration was just the first step in what would become a defining moment for humanity's place in the galaxy. They'll be watching us even more closely now, Banks said as they walked back to the Earth Embassy. Lisa nodded. Let them watch. Maybe they'll learn that humanity isn't the monster they fear, but we're not their prey either. What's our next move? Banks asked. We prepare, Lisa replied, her eyes fixed on the stars outside. We maintain our defenses, we document everything, and we prove through our actions that we can be both strong and peaceful. She turned to face him. The galaxy needs to learn that humanity won't start a fight. But we'll sure as hell finish one. Banks finished. The stars twinkled silently beyond the station's windows, unconcerned with the political turmoil they had just witnessed. Somewhere out there, Earth waited, its people unaware that their ambassador had just set in motion events that would change the course of galactic history. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez stared at her sensor display aboard the UES Valiant. Something wasn't right. The patrol near the Centauri border had been quiet for the past 6 hours, but her gut told her trouble was coming. Lieutenant, are you seeing this? Asked Ensign Steve Clark from the station next to her. Amy leaned forward, focusing on a slight distortion in the sensor readings. Captain Maxwell, we have unusual energy signatures at grid point 7. Captain John Maxwell walked over to her station, his experienced eyes scanning the readouts. At 53, he had spent more time in space than most of the crew had been alive. Analysis. Sir, the pattern matches Zaxuri cloaking technology, but it's bigger than anything we've seen before. Amy adjusted the sensors, trying to get a clearer reading. Much bigger. Maxwell's face hardened. Sound general quarters. All hands to battle stations. Red alert klaxons filled the ship. Crew members rushed to their posts as the Valiant's quantum shields hummed to life. They had barely finished preparations when space itself seemed to tear open. Massive spatial distortion. Amy called out. Multiple Zaxiri ships decloaking. The view screen showed a terrifying sight. 15 Zaxiri battlecruisers materializing out of nowhere. Each ship was 3 times the size of the Valiant, their hull plating gleaming with a predatory shine. Message from the Zaxiri flagship. Communications Officer Ryan Cooper announced. They're ordering us to power down our shields and prepare for boarding. They claim we're in violation of the emergency protocols. Captain Maxwell stood tall on his bridge. Send this response. We are within Earth's recognized territory conducting a routine patrol. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate force. Sir, Amy reported. They're charging weapons. Tactical analysis. Maxwell asked. Amy's fingers flew over her console. 5 heavy cruisers, 8 destroyers, 2 carriers. They're forming a blockade pattern. Our quantum shields should hold against their plasma weapons, but we're seriously outnumbered. Maxwell nodded grimly. Send an emergency burst transmission to Earth Command. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot us an escape vector. Before Amy could respond, the space around them lit up with plasma fire. The Valiant shuddered as multiple energy beams struck their quantum shields. Shields holding at 92%, Steve reported. The quantum field is dispersing their energy weapons just like in the simulations. Maxwell allowed himself a small smile. Let's show them why you don't corner a human ship. Helm, pattern Delta 6. Lieutenant Rodriguez, target their lead cruiser's propulsion systems. The Valiant moved like a dancer despite its size, weaving through the storm of plasma fire. Amy's targeting computers locked onto the Zaxiri flagship's engines. Fire when ready, Lieutenant, Maxwell ordered. Amy pressed the firing control. The Valiant's quantum torpedoes, a technology the Zaxiri didn't even know existed, streaked across space. They passed right through the alien shields as if they weren't there, detonating against the flagship's engine housing. Direct hit, Amy called out. Their primary drive is offline. The bridge crew cheered, but Maxwell raised his hand for silence. They're not done yet. Stay focused. The Zaxiri response was immediate and furious. All 14 remaining ships opened fire simultaneously, their plasma beams creating a web of deadly energy around the Valiant. Shields at 75%, Steve reported. They're trying to overload our quantum field. Reroute power from non-essential systems, Maxwell ordered. Amy, target their destroyer squadron. Let's thin their numbers. The next 10 minutes were chaos. The Valiant danced through space, its quantum shields glowing bright as they absorbed and dispersed the Zaxiri weapons. Each time they found an opening, Amy's torpedoes struck with surgical precision, disabling rather than destroying their opponents. Sir, Ryan called out, we're picking up transmissions between their ships. They're panicking. They've never encountered shields they couldn't break. Maxwell nodded. Send another message to their commander. Tell them we're still willing to end this peacefully. The response came in the form of 3 destroyers making a suicide run at the Valiant. Evasive maneuvers, Maxwell shouted. All power to forward shields. Amy watched in horror as the destroyers accelerated to ramming speed, but Captain Maxwell wasn't finished. Engineering, initiate quantum field pulse on my mark. The destroyers came closer, their hulls glowing from the stress of their acceleration. Now, the Valiant's quantum shields pulsed outward in a wave of pure energy. The Zaxiri ships hit the wave and simply stopped, their momentum completely absorbed by the quantum field. They hung in space, powerless and stunned. All enemy ships disabled, Amy reported, her voice shaking with adrenaline. No casualties on either side. Sir. Maxwell straightened his uniform. Send to Earth Command. First engagement complete. Zaxxery blockade force neutralized. Request immediate reinforcement and diplomatic personnel. The bridge was quiet as the crew realized what they had just accomplished. They had faced a superior force, and won without taking a single life. It was a victory that would change how the galaxy saw humanity. Sir, Ryan said, breaking the silence, we're getting responses from all over the sector. Other ships saw the battle. The Andromedans are calling it the Centauri stand. Amy looked at her tactical display, where the disabled Zaxxery ships floated harmlessly in space. She thought about all the training, all the simulations they had run. Humanity had prepared for this day, hoping it would never come but ready when it did. Captain, she said, more ships approaching. Reading Earth Defense Force signatures. The cavalry's arrived. Maxwell smiled. Right on time. Lieutenant Rodriguez, begin compiling your battle data. I have a feeling a lot of people will want to study what happened here today. As Earth reinforcements secured the area and began rescue operations for the disabled Zaxxery ships, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Zaxxery Empire had lost its first major engagement in over 1,000 years, and they had lost it to a species they had dismissed as primitive warriors. In her quarters later, Amy wrote in her personal log, "Today we proved something important. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to conquer or destroy, but we will not be bullied, and we will not be slaves." The galaxy needed to learn that lesson, and today we were the teachers. The Centauri stand would be remembered as the moment everything changed. It wasn't just a battle. It was proof that humanity's way of thinking, their ability to innovate and adapt, made them far more dangerous than any superior numbers or advanced weapons. As the Valiant's crew began repairs and prepared for whatever would come next, they knew they had just written the first page of a new chapter in human history. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they. Daniel Harrison ignored the ache in his back as he sat in his office on the Andromedan space station, Crystal Prime. He had been working for 20 hours straight, but he couldn't stop now. Not when humanity was so close to gaining their first major alien ally. His computer screen showed the latest news from the Centauri border. The UEA's Valiant's victory had changed everything. Now, species that had ignored Earth were suddenly very interested in talking. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Come in," Daniel called out. Commander Susan Kelly walked in, still wearing her stealth suit from her latest mission. Her short red hair was messy, but her eyes were alert. "You need to see this," she said, placing a data chip on his desk. Daniel plugged the chip into his computer. His eyes widened as he watched the footage. "Where did you get this?" "My team infiltrated a Zaxxery military base," Susan said, sitting down. "Turns out they've been breaking a lot more treaties than we thought. Those pirate raids on neutral worlds. All Zaxxery ships with fake markings." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "This is exactly what we need. The Andromedans have been waiting for proof before they take sides." "Speaking of Andromedans," Susan said, "your meeting with their High Council starts in 30 minutes. Daniel stood up and straightened his diplomatic uniform. The timing couldn't have been better. He grabbed the data chip and headed for the council chamber. The Andromedan High Council chamber was beautiful. The walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. 5 Andromedan leaders sat in crystalline chairs, their transparent bodies glowing with different colors. Diplomat Harrison, the lead counselor, said, its body shimmering blue, "You requested this emergency session. Please proceed." Daniel activated a holographic display in the center of the room. "Honored Council, 2 days ago, Commander Kelly's team discovered evidence of extensive Zaxxery treaty violations. What you're about to see will change how you view this conflict." The footage played, showing Zaxxery ships attacking peaceful worlds while disguised as pirates. It showed secret bases being built in neutral territory. Most damaging of all, it showed Zaxxery commanders planning attacks on Andromedan research stations. The Zaxuri claim humans are a threat to peace, Daniel said. But these records show they've been preparing for war long before our quantum shield technology was revealed. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the lead counselor spoke. This evidence is troubling, but why share it with us? Because Earth doesn't want to fight this war alone, Daniel replied. We've studied Andromedan history. Your people value truth and justice above all else. We believe an alliance between our species would benefit both our peoples. A red glowing counselor spoke up. Your quantum shields are impressive, but what else could humans offer the Andromedan Confederation? Daniel smiled. This was the opening he'd been waiting for. We've developed a way to combine our quantum technology with your crystal-based systems. With your permission. He pressed a button on his device. A small drone floated into the chamber. It was built with a mix of human and Andromedan technology. Quantum fields flowing through crystal matrices. This drone represents just the beginning, Daniel explained. Human creativity combined with Andromedan precision. We could revolutionize everything from defense systems to space travel. The counselors' colors shifted rapidly as they discussed among themselves. Finally, the lead counselor glowed bright white, a sign of decision. The Andromedan Confederation accepts your proposal for an alliance, it announced. We will provide you with technical support and diplomatic backing in the Galactic Council. Meanwhile, across the station, Commander Kelly was meeting with her team. They gathered in a secure room, planning their next mission. The Zaxuri will retaliate when they learn about the alliance, she told her squad. We need to be ready. Our next target is their main military communications hub in the Orion sector. One of her team members, Agent Paul Harris, spoke up. What's our objective? Plant evidence, another agent asked. Susan shook her head. No need to plant anything. We're going to broadcast the truth. Every dirty secret, every broken treaty, every illegal operation, straight to the Galactic Council's data networks. Back in the diplomatic quarter, Daniel received an urgent message. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. The Zaxuri were demanding sanctions against Earth. He smiled as he read the message. They had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, the great chamber of the Galactic Council was packed. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as Zaxuri Ambassador Kextar demanded action against Earth. The humans have corrupted the Andromedans with lies, Kextar declared, his scales flashing angry red. They must be contained before. The chamber's main screen suddenly activated. Commander Kelly's team had done their job perfectly. Evidence of Zaxuri crimes began playing on every screen in the chamber. Daniel stood up. Members of the council, the Zaxuri Empire has called humanity a threat to peace. Now you see the truth. While they accused us of aggression, they were the ones breaking treaties, attacking innocent worlds, and planning wars. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had been victims of pirate raids recognized their attackers. Neutral worlds saw proof of Zaxuri bases on their territories. The Andromedan representative stood up, announcing their alliance with Earth and confirming the evidence's authenticity. The Zaxuri Empire has lost the right to speak of peace, Daniel declared. Earth calls for a full investigation of their military activities. We also submit ourselves to the same investigation to prove we have nothing to hide. Ambassador Kextar tried to object, but his voice was drowned out by calls of support from other species. The tide had turned. Later that evening, Daniel met with Susan in his office. Your team did amazing work, he said, pouring them both a drink. The Zaxuri's reputation is ruined. Half their allies have already abandoned them. Susan took a sip, just doing our job. But this isn't over. They'll be desperate now. Desperate enemies are dangerous. That's why we needed the Andromedans, Daniel replied. With their support, other species will join us. The Zaxuri won't risk fighting half the galaxy. And if they do? Susan asked. Daniel looked out his window at the stars. Then they'll learn what humanity does best, adapting and overcoming. We didn't want this fight, but we'll finish it. As news of the Alliance and the Zaxxeri's exposed crimes spread across the galaxy, more species began reaching out to Earth. The balance of power was shifting. Humanity had proven they weren't just warriors. They were clever strategists, loyal allies, and defenders of truth. The war wasn't over, but its nature had changed. What started as an attempt to contain humanity had become a fight for the soul of the galaxy itself. And Earth, the youngest spacefaring nation, was leading the charge. Colonel Richard Bennett looked at the massive holographic display inside Lunar Base Armstrong. Red dots showing Zaxxeri ships filled the screen. There were hundreds of them, all heading straight for Earth. Status report, he called out to his command staff. Major Catherine Martinez stepped forward. Her fighter squadron had just returned from a scouting mission. Sir, we count at least 300 Zaxxeri warships. This isn't a battle fleet, it's an invasion force. Richard nodded grimly. The Zaxxeri had finally snapped. After their secrets were exposed to the Galactic Council, after losing half their allies, they had decided to risk everything on one massive attack. How long until they reach our defense line? He asked. 6 hours, Catherine replied. Our quantum sensor network is tracking their every move. They can't hide anymore. Richard pressed a button on his command console. This is Colonel Bennett to all Earth Defense Force stations. Operation Earthshield is now active. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. All around the moon base, lights blazed to life. Hidden doors in the lunar surface opened, revealing rows of defense platforms equipped with quantum torpedoes. In Earth orbit, cloaked satellites activated their shields, forming an invisible barrier around the planet. Message from the Andromedan fleet, an officer announced. They're in position behind Jupiter. The Zaxxeri don't know they're there. Catherine smiled. The hunters are about to become the hunted. Richard looked at his tactical display. Thanks to the Andromedan's crystal technology combined with human quantum systems, their sensors could see everything. The Zaxxeri were flying blind, thinking they had surprised Earth. Major Martinez, prepare your squadrons, Richard ordered. Remember your training. Their ships are bigger, but our new fighters are faster and smarter. Catherine saluted and left to join her pilots. The fighter bays of Lunar Base Armstrong were busy with activity as crews prepared their ships. Each fighter was a marvel of human and Andromedan engineering, equipped with both quantum shields and crystal-enhanced weapons. In her flight suit, Catherine addressed her pilots. Listen up. The Zaxxeri think they can intimidate us with numbers. They think we'll surrender rather than face their armada. They're wrong. Today we show them why you don't threaten Earth. The pilots cheered. They had trained for months with their new ships, practicing moves that would have been impossible with older technology. Back in the command center, Richard watched as the Zaxxeri fleet entered the outer solar system. They moved with confidence, not knowing they were being watched. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Zaxxeri fleet. Put it through, Richard ordered. A hologram appeared showing Admiral Zexkar of the Zaxxeri Empire. His scales were dark with anger. This is your only warning. Surrender your quantum technology and submit to Zaxxeri rule, or we will reduce your world to ash. Richard stood tall. This is Colonel Bennett of the Earth Defense Force. Your invasion force has entered restricted space. Turn back now, or we will be forced to defend ourselves. The Zaxxeri admiral laughed. Defend yourselves. With what? A handful of ships and some clever shields. We have enough firepower to overwhelm any defense. That's our final warning, Richard said calmly. What happens next is your choice. The transmission ended. Richard looked at his officers. Begin countdown to engagement. Major Martinez, launch your squadrons. Catherine's voice came over the command channel. All squadrons, launch. Form up and prepare for combat maneuvers. Hundreds of human fighters streamed out from the moon base and hidden stations around Earth. They moved into formation, their quantum shields humming with power. The Zaxuri fleet approached Mars orbit. Suddenly, their frontline ships started reporting sensor ghosts. The quantum defense grid was activating, creating false readings that confused their targeting systems. "They're in range," Richard announced. "All units, engage at will. Operation Earthshield is now active." Catherine led the first attack run. Her squadron dove through the Zaxuri formation, their quantum torpedoes striking with perfect accuracy. The massive alien ships, designed to fight traditional battles, couldn't track the nimble human fighters. "Direct hits," Catherine reported. "Their shields can't stop our quantum weapons." The space around Mars lit up with weapons fire. Human fighters darted between the huge Zaxuri ships, striking crucial systems and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Then the Andromedans revealed themselves. Their crystal ships emerged from behind Jupiter, their advanced weapons adding to the chaos. The Zaxuri fleet found itself caught between two forces, their careful formation breaking apart. "Status report," Richard called out. 30 Zaxuri capital ships disabled, his tactical officer reported. "Their fleet is splitting up, trying to find a way through our defense grid." Catherine's voice crackled over the comm. "Colonel, they're launching fighters of their own." "Stick to the plan," Richard ordered. "Let them come to us." The Zaxuri fighters were large and powerful, but they were fighting in human space now. Earth's defense grid created a maze of sensor ghosts and false readings. The alien pilots couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. Catherine's squadrons used this confusion to their advantage. They struck from unexpected angles, their quantum shields absorbing any return fire. The combined human and Andromedan forces moved like a single unit, years of training paying off. Hours into the battle, the Zaxuri fleet was in chaos. Dozens of their ships had been disabled, their mighty weapons useless against quantum shields. Their fighters were lost in the defense grid's false signals. "Sir," Catherine reported, "their command ship is trying to retreat." Richard watched as the massive Zaxuri flagship turned away from Earth. All around it, other ships were doing the same. "Should we pursue?" Catherine asked. "Negative," Richard replied. "Let them go. They need to report their failure to their leaders." The battle wasn't over, but its outcome was clear. Earth's defenses had held. The combined human and Andromedan forces had defeated the largest Zaxuri fleet ever assembled. Later, in the command center, Richard and Catherine watched the final ships retreat. "They'll be back," Catherine said. "Maybe," Richard replied. "But next time they'll know what they're facing." The galaxy just learned that Earth isn't just defended by weapons and shields. It's defended by people who know how to use them. The victory celebration was brief. There was too much work to do. Disabled Zaxuri ships needed to be secured. Damaged defense platforms had to be repaired. But everyone knew they had just made history. For the first time ever, a young species had successfully defended itself against a major empire's full assault. The quantum defense technology that the Zaxuri had feared had proven its worth. But more importantly, human creativity and determination had shown that superior numbers didn't always mean victory. As the sun rose over Lunar Base Armstrong, Richard looked at Earth floating in space. They had protected their home. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. Mary Collins walked through the newly rebuilt halls of the Galactic Council Station. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Earth, and everything had changed. The old council chamber, with its raised platforms for the superior species, was gone. In its place was a circular room where all representatives sat as equals. "Representative Collins," a voice called out. She turned to see Alexander Pierce, now the head of the Galactic Military Academy, walking toward her. His uniform showed both human and Andromedan medals. "Alex," she greeted him warmly. "How are the new students adapting?" He smiled. "Better than expected. Even the Zaxuri cadets are eager to learn human battle tactics now. Amazing what a decisive defeat can do to change minds." They walked together toward the council chamber. Today was important. The final vote on the new galactic charter would take place. After 10,000 years, the old power structure was about to change forever. "Have you seen the latest reports from the joint research teams?" Alex asked. Mary nodded. Human quantum technology combined with Andromedan crystals has opened up possibilities no one imagined. We got ships that can travel twice as far, shields that can protect entire solar systems, and communication systems that work across the galaxy instantly. They entered the council chamber, which was already filling with representatives from hundreds of species. Mary took her seat at the Earth section, while Alex joined the military observers. The new High Council entered, 5 members chosen by merit rather than species age or military power. 1 was Andromedan, 1 was human, and 3 were from other species. They took their places at a simple table, not a raised platform. "The council is now in session," announced High Councillor Kryn, the Andromedan representative. "Today we vote on the new charter, which will reshape how our galaxy governs itself." Mary stood up to present the final draft. She had worked on it for months with representatives from 50 species. "The new charter is based on 3 simple principles," she began. "First, all spacefaring species have equal rights and representation, regardless of their age or power. Second, technology should be used to benefit all, not to dominate others. Third, conflict must be resolved through discussion and fair arbitration before any military action is considered." She paused, looking around the chamber. "We've included protection for younger species, so what happened to Earth can never happen again. We've also created a system where species can share technology safely, without fear of it being used against them." In the military section, Alex watched with pride. The defeat of the Zaxiri fleet had taught the galaxy that age and numbers weren't everything. Human innovation, combined with their willingness to form true partnerships, had changed the rules. "The floor is now open for final discussions," High Councillor Kryn announced. A Zaxiri representative stood up. Their scales were a peaceful blue, a big change from the angry reds of the past. "The Zaxiri Empire, no, the Zaxiri Republic now, supports this charter. We have learned that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination." More representatives spoke, each adding their support. Even species that had once looked down on humans now acknowledged the benefits of the new system. As the discussion continued, Mary thought back to the events that had led to this moment. The Galactic Council's emergency declaration, the Centauri stand, the alliance with the Andromedans, and finally, Operation Earthshield. Each event had shown that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their quantum technology. It was their ability to think differently and work together. The voting began. Each species had 1 vote, regardless of their size or power. Mary watched as the numbers climbed on the display screen. The final vote stands at 197 in favor, 12 against, and 3 abstentions, High Councillor Kryn announced. "The new charter is approved and will take effect immediately." The chamber erupted in cheers. Species that had once been enemies congratulated each other. Alex watched as a young Zaxiri cadet shook hands with a human student, something unthinkable just a year ago. After the session, Mary and Alex walked to the station's observation deck. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot that had changed the galaxy. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Alex asked. Mary shook her head. "When I first took this job, I just wanted to protect Earth. But we did something bigger. We showed the galaxy a better way." "The Galactic Military Academy is a good example," Alex said. "We don't just teach tactics. We teach cooperation, innovation, and respect. Every graduate learns that victory doesn't always mean defeating your enemy. Sometimes it means turning them into friends." A group of cadets walked past them, representing 6 different species. They were discussing new ways to combine their various technologies. Mary smiled as she watched them. "That's the real victory," she said. "Not the battles we won, but the peace we built afterward." Just then, her computer pad chimed. It was a message from Earth's Science Division. The joint human-Andromedan research team had made another breakthrough. The quantum crystal technology had been adapted to terraform uninhabitable planets. See, Mary showed Alex the message. This is what happens when species work together instead of fighting. We solve problems that seemed impossible. Alex nodded. The old council would have restricted this technology, saved it for the worthy species. How many worlds will be transformed because we chose a different path? As they watched, a ship took off from the station, one of the new hybrid designs. Its quantum drives glowed with crystal energy as it prepared for faster-than-light travel. It carried scientists from 12 different species, heading out to explore the galaxy together. We still have challenges ahead, Mary said. Some species aren't happy about losing their special status. The Zaxuri Republic is still adjusting to democracy. But for the first time, we're facing these problems together. And that's why we'll solve them, Alex replied. Because we finally understood what the old council didn't. The galaxy doesn't belong to any one species. It belongs to all of us. They watched as more ships came and went from the station. Each one carried beings from different worlds, working together to build something new. The Age of Empires was over. The Age of Cooperation had begun, and it had all started because humanity refused to be bullied, refused to give up their rights, but also refused to become the very thing they had fought against. They had shown the galaxy that true strength comes not from power alone, but from how you choose to use it. As the Earth turned slowly in the distance, Mary thought about all the species that would now have a chance to join the galactic community as equals. The quantum shields that had protected Earth would now protect others. The innovation that had saved humanity would now help everyone. The human space warriors had won their greatest victory not through fighting, but through showing the galaxy a better way forward. And that was a victory that would last for generations to come.